Thank you, Alia. 17 minutes past 8, past 9 Mountain Time. This is Daybreak. We're at 94.1 FM in Kamloops. Radio-Canada International's online film festival and competition is underway. The competition had 200 entries, and now it's whittled that down to 15. Among those 15 is a short film by Kelowna's Marc Arellano. Marc says his documentary explores the notion of identity, and he is sitting with me in studio. But before I start talking to him, here is a clip from the film.
If the memory of a nation is in its people, then we must have more than one. Probably, it's a long list. My father tells a story about my oldest brother. One day, Ramiro came home crying. The kids at school had teased him about being half Bolivian and half French-Canadian. They poked at him and asked, "Which is your Bolivian side, and which side is French?" My brother Ian rarely talks about his life at school.
So that is just part of Marc Arellano's short film. It's called Canadian.
I'm glad you struggled with that. That was the intent, Marion.
Well, because it's not spelled, and we'll get into that. This film has made the semifinals in Radio Canada's international online film competition called Migrations. So Marc, what exactly is the title about? Because it's Canadian, right? But it's spelled phonetically,
exactly. And that was kind of like a metaphor for the theme of this short documentary, is that we struggle with the notion of identity. And I wanted to choose a title where people would have to look twice at the title. And I think that's what we need to do when we think about our own identities as individuals, or on a larger scale, our national identity, and really question all the variables that make up our identity. So I chose that phonetic spelling because Canada is a country of immigrants, and depending on where you're from, your accent might fall a little bit differently when you pronounce the word. So in a sense, if I talk about the tagline to the film, it's all in how you say it. So it plays back to the notion of we all create our own identities, and we come together to create one larger identity in this country.
Well, and we heard a bit from the film about what your brothers went through. So tell us a bit about your family and your background.
Oh boy, I kind of feel like the Yukon gold potato you were talking about this morning, which is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about this morning, which is we all come from a different place, but we come here and we create this whole new identity. In French, the term, or the slang term, would be, we've made a giblotte. I guess in English you'd call it a kind of stew where you throw a number of things in, or a mishmash. And what's beautiful about this country, or what is powerful about this country, is that we can retain our roots and retain the best parts of where we come from, and bring it and create this new thing here in Canada. And I really think it's something that we should be proud of, because if you look south of the border, many of the things that we have are what our neighbors to the south are looking for. And I think we have to be very careful to treasure those things and maintain them.
Because you you quoted the French word. Your mother was French Canadian.
That's right.
Your father is from Bolivia.
Yeah, a small Latin American country, kind of in the heart of South America. Almost like the Yukon gold potato again. I keep on coming back to that, which is a blend of a Canadian potato and a potato from South America. So,
and you grew up in Toronto?
Mostly in Toronto. We did live in Bolivia for a short time. Most of my family also lived in Montreal. When I was a little bit older, I lived in the National Capital Region, so I lived in Hull and Gatineau and Buckingham, and then eventually moved to northern Quebec, and then moved here to BC. So when people say, "Where are you from?" I have a very hard time answering, because I'm from a little bit of everywhere in the country, except for the prairies.
Well, the marvelous thing about this film was the premise. Your parents coming from two different parts of the world, and including that in the film, but including it by taking film from your growing up years.
Is that incredible? What a great legacy that my father had left the family. And I had bugged him for years to give me the original tapes so I could digitize them and have them for future generations. So I've had them in a shoebox for a number of years. And I always was thinking in the back of my head, what can I do with this film footage? And when I saw the call for the competition at Radio Canada International, I thought, wow, what a wonderful opportunity to pay homage to my parents, but also to my larger family, the Canadian family. And it's just been a tremendous response that I've received. Something that I never anticipated was that people are responding back with their own stories and creating this magnificent dialogue. People are saying, I'm part Polish or I'm part Ukrainian, and this is my family story, and I can understand where your film is coming from. And that caught me off guard quite a bit. I didn't expect that tremendous response.
And the other marvelous thing at the very end of the film, and I'm not going to give it away, people have to watch it, but I love the scene at the end with your parents and your daughter, because your daughter is growing up much the same way you did, because you and your wife.
That's right. Well, that was the hard thing, when our daughter was born, was to find a name that will function in English, French, and Spanish. And we came up with the name Camille because it's my maternal grandmother's name. And but it's something that can work in English as Camille or in Spanish as Camila. And it kind of is a metaphor for our future generation that is carrying on from the past and the present.
So what do you hope that your daughter would be able to take from your film?
Well, that she can be her own person, that she has stability in the heritage that she has, and knowing that the best qualities of her parents or her family will support her for the rest of her life. And I think that's what anyone can take from their family or their own heritage, is that there are pros and there are cons, of course, like anything in life, but we have to look for the good things that help us carry us forward. And to understand that we may all have individual stories or personal stories, but it's really about our destinies and our futures. They overlap and they're combined. And we can't forget that as a family at a micro level, but also as a national family, that we may all be individuals, but really our futures are intertwined. And that's important to remember when we're making big decisions in life.
Well, Marc, this is a great film, and all the best with it. Thank you so much for telling us about it.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can get to the site and give me a vote, because it's going to be pretty competitive this round.
I'm going to tell people how they can do that.
Thank you so much.
That is Kelowna-based filmmaker Marc Arellano. You can watch the film, check out the rest of the competition at www.rcinet.ca/migrations. I'll give you that again. www.rcinet.ca/migrations.